Can I say it again? Can I say wow again? I want to say it. That was so great. You just had the ending there. And, I'm going to check in. I'm not quite sure who wrote this biography, but Matt, praised by the New York Times for outrageous fiddling.
It's
so
true.
I heard some outrageous fiddling in that. That was great. Tell me about that. Now the outrageous fiddling. Are there any? Is there any special trick to this? Is it just amazing technique, or some other things that you do? Connection to your soul.
What is it? I think it's all of the above. No. I was trained classically. But growing up, I always found myself not only drawn to the classical radio station, but also to a lot of rock and roll music. I grew up in the 80s, so a lot of heavy metal, actually. And so I'd be practicing my violin, and I'd start to kind of mess around. I'd be doing all the right things, all the things I was told to do, and then I'd think to myself, how can I make my violin sound more like an electric guitar? And so just kind of start trying out different places to put the bow, different ways to use my left hand for the fingering on the strings. And it basically became a quest to, in my mind, become more of a complete musician, not to only be classified as a classical musician or a jazz musician or a rock musician, but just a musician who's fluent in all the dialects. I don't look at these different styles of music as different languages. They're just different dialects of the same language. And, for instance, I see a lineage between Bach and John Coltrane, and then John Coltrane to A Tribe Called Quest. It's all the same story.
I'm actually very glad you said that, if any of my students out there are listening. Sometimes I try to make that connection in theory, and sometimes another teacher walks in and kind of nods and walks out. But, I see it the same way. I see it as all part of a lineage, and definitely everything borrows from everything else, So, incidentally, my roommate in college was a rock and roll violinist.
Nice.
Classically trained, but actually he was a working violinist at the time, so he split his gigs about 1/3 each, Irish fiddling, rock and roll fiddling, and Jewish klezmer fiddling. So he was, quite well-rounded, I think, just like you all are. So that was a great answer. We're going to hear something, we're talking about rock and roll. Maybe this is a little funky. We're going to check out something funky. This is a song, another one that's a favorite here in Korea, but I don't think they'll be so familiar with your version, so we're going to check out Pick Up the Pieces.
All right.
All right, here it is.